Since all of you seem to love these recap episodes, we got another one. And in this one, I'm going to talk about some advice that I learned from a couple of billionaire investors. Now, before I go into what I learned there, if you like this content, definitely go over to YouTube or go to Apple or wherever you listen to podcasts, click the subscribe button, turn the notification bell on so you can get more great episodes. Now, back to the situation. So there I was sitting in the boardroom of a Fortune 500 company, and in the boardroom were 21 of the top Wall Street analysts from around the world. I guess, they live in New York, but they came from different places around the world, but they worked for 21 of the top financial institutions, and they were there to have an in-depth conversation with the CEO and the CFO of the Fortune 500 company I was working with. Now, at the time, my job was working in investor relations, and I was working with, the CEO and his team, helping them get ready for meetings like this, constantly on the phone with Wall Street analysts, and even had the pleasure of where we've had billionaire investors come to visit because they were looking at doing partnerships. They were looking at investing in the business and some of the technology that we were working on. And as I was sitting in that room with those 21 in Wall Street investment analysts, a quote from a billionaire investor came back to mind. And one of the things that he talked about in this conversation he was having, he was like, the reason why I'm a billionaire is because I understand how the conversation is going in this room, and I know how to take what I hear in this room and then go use it in a strategy. And I was like, man, that is amazing, because after I heard that, I definitely leaned forward. And now, so let me tell you a couple of the things that he talked about that he said was how he learned how to understand it. The first one is something that's not so sexy. And I agree that, when it comes down to business, talking about marketing, talking about sales, that's the sexy side of business. A lot of people want to spend time there. A lot of people want to do that. But one of the things that he helped me understand is that, all of that is fine and that's good, but when it comes down to really investing in a business, when it comes down to really buying a business, there's another area that I kind of start with. So I previously did a video talking about that. So let me just play the clip for you where I talked about that and I go in a little bit of depth on that. So enjoy the clip and I'll be right back. Now, the truth is, accounting may not be the sexiest part of your business, but it is a very important part of your business. And as a business owner or an entrepreneur, you should understand at least the basics about accounting and finance. So some of the things that you should understand are, what are your basic financial statements? That would be your income statement, your balance sheet, and your cash flow statement. And then you want to start to understand, what do each of them tell you? For example, the income statement tells you about your revenue and your expenses. And it also tells you what your gross profits or your operating profits are. Those are very, very important factors to understand about your business. Because if you're in business to make a profit, you want to understand what that profit is, where the profit's coming from, or what's causing you not to make a profit. And then in your balance sheet, you want to understand, your assets and your liabilities. Now, that's not just an accounting term to be understood, but it is a very important thing when it comes down to growing your business. Let's say, for example, if you have to go out and take out a loan, one of the things that the banks or the financial institutions are going to look at are, what are the assets that you have? Do you have enough assets to support or back the loan? Or are you underwater? Do you have more debt than assets? And if you have more debt than assets, then that's going to be a red flag for anyone who's looking to invest, because they're going to be concerned. Do you have enough assets to actually keep your business alive and keep your business going? And then looking at your cash flow. Now, the cash flow becomes very important because it helps you understand, where is your cash coming from? Is it coming from investors who are giving you money? Is it coming from debts and loans that you're taking out? Or is it coming from your operations? Are you actually cash flow positive or are you cash flow negative? Those are very, very important numbers, because if you don't have cash flowing through your business, you really don't have a business. Well, at least you won't have a business for long, because a business that runs out of cash is usually a business that files for bankruptcy or a business that is sold at a discount. So if you're running a business or you're an entrepreneur or business owner, you want to make sure you understand those not so sexy parts of your business. And accounting is one of those areas. And the best place to start when it comes down to accounting is understanding the basic financial statements and what is actually in those financial statements. Because the better you understand those, the better you will be at being able to navigate the decisions that you need to make as a business. So there you go. I know you probably watched that clip and thought like, oh, this is so biased. And you know what? Maybe I am a little biased because accounting and finance is my background. But that is the honest truth of what the investor told me. And that was one of those things that I was like, you know what? I really never looked at it that way, but he helped me understand that, you know what? Accounting is the language of business. So you want to start making sure that you improve your understanding of accounting. Now, I know when a lot of people hear accounting, they automatically think, oh, well, what about my taxes? And you know, that's a separate part of accounting. But what he was talking about is understanding the business and the operational aspect of accounting. Now, in the video, I talked about, you know, getting a good grasp of your financial statement. So to make it a little bit easier, because you could spend years diving into the topic of understanding financial statements, you know what? I said, you know what? I'll take a step back and I'll help you understand why the financial statements are important. And I do it very well because a lot of people love this next clip that I'm going to play. A lot of people watched it and they said, I get it now. The light bulbs went off. So enjoy this next clip and I'll be right back. Now, when you're thinking about the finances of your business the right way, what you'll notice is that the financial statements they're almost like a GPS in your business. What they begin is they help you navigate those different decisions that you're making. Like, you know, I was in the car going on somewhere with a friend before, and we were actually taking a road trip while we were in Brazil. And we were going from Sao Paulo to Rio, and we wanted to do the scenic route. So we were driving up the coast. I mean, it was an amazing trip. It was a beautiful view. I mean, if you've never driven the coast of any country before, you know, and they have an ocean, then I'm telling you, you will be amazed at the things that you see. Now, this trip, I guess because of the route we took and, you know, a stop we made at a couple of beaches, you know, to get out, to do some sightseeing and see some pretty cool stuff. I mean, it took us about maybe 12 hours. So one of the things that we realized as we were getting closer to the city, what happened is that my GPS absolutely went out. I mean, neither of us had ever really driven to Rio before. I mean, I was living in Brazil, but I lived in Sao Paulo, so I never really spent a lot of time there. So I didn't know Rio well enough to be able to navigate the streets without a GPS. Now, when we got to, I guess we were probably about maybe an hour outside of Rio, and where we were headed, neither of us had ever been there before. So as we were trying to figure out, I mean, how the heck are we going to get where we are going? And, you know, it made me think about, you know, just all these different times when trying to navigate through, you know, through different business decisions, or we're trying to decide between this path or this path in the business. The financial statements they're almost like a GPS in your business. Now that you've gotten the point of like, hey, accounting's not the sexiest part of the business, but hey, there's something there for me to learn. And then as we kind of talked about it, how, you know what, the financials really do help you navigate that journey. Because the more you start to understand the financials and what the financial statements are telling you, the easier it becomes for you to know what steps to do next. Now, you're probably thinking, okay, all right, how do I get this more specific? Well, one of the areas that I really started to see this really make some huge progress is when I started working with different sales teams. Now, sales professionals, they live in a completely different world than, your typical accountants. And so one of the things that I did was, how do I start to break this down? How do I break the financial information down to help the sales team close more deals? And after doing that for several years, one of the things that I said, you know what, let me go back and put that in a video. And in this next clip, I'm going to explain how I help the sales teams use the financial statements to actually work through that process of closing more profitable deals. So enjoy this next clip and I'll be right back. Now, if you're trying to figure out how can you help your customers see the value of the product or the solution that you offer, there are a ton of ways you can go about that. But there is a financial way that you can go about that. Now, I know you don't really hear about this too often, but one of the simple ways to approach this, I think, is understanding your customer has their own financial targets and their own financial metrics that they are held responsible for. To be honest with you, although you may be a B2B business or you may be talking to a representative of XYZ organization, you are really dealing with another person. And that person you are dealing with has financial metrics, or they have some type of financial standards that they are held to. So you want to make sure you understand, you know what? To the person that I am having the conversation with, or to the person who is the decision maker, what are the financial metrics that matter to them in their business? And then the next thing you can do is actually think about, how does your product actually help them achieve the financial metrics that they care about? Because when you understand how your product actually is connected to their goal, then it allows you to kind of understand how to pitch your product even better. And then I would say the third thing is figuring out how to adjust your pitch to emphasize how your product actually helps them. And then I would say the fourth thing that you should do is, after you're able to pitch the deal and they say yes, what you should do is follow up with them on a regular basis to actually ask them, hey, I know that these were your financial metrics and my product helps you in this area. Actually follow up with them to have them tell you how your product is actually helping them get closer to the financial metrics. Because when you are able to help remind them that your product is helping them get closer to the goal that they wanted, they will then have a very, very good perception of your product, of you and your business in their mind. And if they have a good perception of you, then they're more likely to refer you to other people. They're also more likely to, I guess you say, give a customer a quality customer testimony. And they're more likely to buy more products from you and possibly buy your upsell products. So as you take time to do those things, those four simple things is understand what are their financial metrics. 2, understand how your product impacts those financial metrics. Number 3, adjust your pitch that it actually caters to their financial metrics. And then number 4 is regularly check in with them to understand how your product is helping them achieve their financial metrics. So now you see what I mean when I say you can use the financials to help you close more sales deals. And not only just close more sales deals, but close the right type of deals. Because when you're not closing the right type of deals, you could be working and working and working and running yourself tired or running your team tired and not getting the type of results that you want. So the last clip that I really want to play, and this one I think really, it capsulizes probably one of the most important pieces of advice that the billionaire investors shared, and it really hit home with me because as I started to take a step back, I realized, you know what, yes, accounting is not the sexiest part of the business, but I need to understand it. Okay, I get it. The financial statements are a GPS roadmap. And yes, the financial statements can help me in the operations and they can help me close more deals and sales. But he said, you know what, you really need to get this last point, because this last point is the one that really makes the difference between you being a really good business and you being a scalable, really, really good business. Because if you don't get this last point, the truth is you will probably never be able to scale your business if you don't get this last point. So enjoy this last clip and I will be right. As an entrepreneur or as a business leader, when you understand the financials in your business, it will help you think more strategically. For example, if you're wondering, should you make this decision over that decision? When you understand how those decisions flow through your financial statements, it'll help give you a better picture of, hey, how is this going to impact the business? And you'll be able to think about it from a different perspective, which I think is great. But what would be even better is if your team understood how to read your financial statements. Because the difference is, when you understand your financials, you think more strategically. But when your team understands the financials, your business will actually execute in a more strategic way. So, as a business leader, as an entrepreneur or business owner, one of the things that you should strive for is, how do you help the people in your business, the people who work in your business, help them understand the financial implications of the trade-offs, the decisions that are being made? Because one of the things that you'll find out, which I find with a lot of the clients that I work with, is the more you educate your team on the financial implications or the financials of your business, and you empower them to make decisions, what you start to realize is your results as a company start to improve. Because when they are provided with the necessary information or the necessary context, they will start to make even better decisions, and you will start to see the benefits throughout your entire organization. There it is, the 4 tips that I learned from a billionaire investor during my times of working in investor relations for multi-billion-dollar companies. And I will say, as I started to learn these things, or when he told me these things, and when I was in the room, in those conversations, or I guess as the play Hamilton says, when I was in the room where it happened, it really didn't set into me like how big of a deal these things were. And I'm not gonna lie, it took me a couple of years to really set in. But the more that I dived into it, the more that I realized, like, wow, this is like the key. And as I started moving throughout my career and working with different companies, what I tried to do is implement this more and more. And I saw some tremendous results. In fact, even to this day, I still have, some friends that are executives at other Fortune 500 companies. And one of the things that they talked about is by me helping them understand these things, that was the thing that allowed them to go from being just a leader or a potentially good executive to actually excelling to being great executives. And they have said that this wisdom and this insight that I shared with them and kind of walking them through the journey of this path has really helped them take their businesses to the next level. So if you love what you heard here, what I'm going to tell you is, don't be selfish. Send this to a business owner that you know, or send this to an accounting or finance leader that you know, because chances are they probably don't understand the value that they could be adding with the knowledge that they know. So don't be selfish about what you heard. Share it with other people. And what you can also do is go over to YouTube, go to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, wherever you listen to podcasts, and click the subscribe button, turn the notification bell on, and you will get updates on when we release more great episodes like this one. Now, this was, hey, the 4 tips that I learned from a billionaire investor during my time of interacting with some of the world's largest financial institutions when I worked in investor relations for a multi-billion-dollar company. So definitely tune in for more coming soon.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Finance and Accounting Show. If you like what you heard, don't be selfish. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and then share this with a friend, because you know a business owner that could definitely use this insight. So be sure to hit that subscribe button, share it with a friend, and turn on the notification bell so you get all the updates when we release a new episode.